Microorganisms are intelligent decision-making creatures. Studies have shown that a colony of bacteria communicates much in the same way that our neurons communicate with each other. Their specific brand of communication is called quorum sensing. It's a cell-to-cell communication that allows them to share information and adjust their genes accordingly. Prokaryotes and single-celled eukaryotes all do this as well. Even plants have their own neurobiological experiences. Contemporary biology doesn't view microorganisms, let alone even plants, as these intelligent decision-making creatures. This is because the philosophy of modern science is stuck in this Aristotelian view of the world. Humans are at the top of the hierarchy, then animals, then plants, and further down into microorganisms. Science, being a human endeavor, is limited and subjected to our senses. The reason why this is a problem is because the average human can't perceive even a blind person. Most people don't think blind people can hear. Likewise, most people think deaf people can't see. Humans are very bad at comprehending other senses, even within our own species. And so when we look at something like a plant, we think it's a non-sensitive organism. It's just reacting mechanically or automatically to stimulus. Yet every single study suggests otherwise, that it's reacting and interacting with its environment in many different ways. Plants punish and reward different organisms around it based off of whether it's a pollinator or if it's a predator. From paramecium to amoeba to fungi and bacteria, all of those organisms have their own neuronal functions. They have sensors and they can communicate with each other through electricity. We've observed these microorganisms problem solving in real time. But these aren't unique to laboratory settings. Problem solving and communication is something that goes on every day, everywhere in nature. This coordination and exchange of information from these microorganisms, it's not limited to supracellular assemblies or colonies, meaning microorganisms are not limited to communication just being physically next to each other. It would probably be best described as something like an internet or an iCloud or maybe even a radio. It's the signaling and receiving of information through electrical frequencies. Now, we didn't invent the internet. It's a discovery of putting certain components and certain frequencies together where you can store, send, and receive information. The reason you're able to watch this video or any video without having to plug in a CD directly is because you're downloading that information through electrical signals. This has been going on in nature for hundreds of millions of years through things like bacteria and fungi. So microorganisms are able to share, upload, and download information between each other. It's stored in their cells and their genes or DNA. An easy example to understand this is found in the phenomena of convergent evolution. A bacteria that becomes antibiotic resistant is able to upload that information, which is why other bacteria can convergently evolve to have that same antibiotic resistance. This doesn't mean that they all will. It's a decision-making process that they can choose to develop that antibiotic resistance if they think that they're going to need it. But this is where it gets interesting. Knowing that about microorganisms, now we can take a look at the human microbiome. We are in constant communication with microorganisms, most of which are in our gut. Not only is 95% of our serotonin produced in the intestines, microorganisms have access and production to many neurotransmitters that they can use to communicate with the host. And not only are they communicating with the host, they're communicating with other colonies within our bodies. They react to stimuli, to drugs, to chemicals that we ingest, and other environmental factors. And they're able to interact with their environment as well and modulate host behavior. This communication network between the host and the microbiome is the subconscious. In the greater sense of that, it is the collective unconscious. This is responsible for things like synchronicity, intuition, and other extrasensory phenomena. Similar to convergent evolution is something called multiple discovery or simultaneous invention. Most inventions and discoveries happened independently and simultaneously as one another. Multiple discovery is the pattern of invention in science and not the exception. Everything from the invention of the crossbow and the sword to TV and the discovery of magnetism, these all happened independently and simultaneously. These were not connected through geographic location, but they were connected through that radio frequency data sharing of microorganisms, and from that to the host brain through the subconscious. In colloquial language, we reference this all the time. We use terms like great minds think alike, or we're on the same wavelength, or intrusive thoughts. It came to me in a dream. I had a gut feeling. This place is giving me a bad or good vibe. And there's other phenomena like you learn a word and now other people start to use that word independently of your communication with them. Now, obviously, those are debated and controversial ideas or terminologies, but we certainly see that there is an avenue for that to exist or for that to be possible. We talked about the multiple discoveries and inventions, but when we take a look at the lives of the actual people who discovered those, most of them do not claim their own agency as the source or inspiration of those discoveries or inventions. And the same can be said for other kinds of artists as well. So you have modern people like Descartes and Buckminster Fuller and Nikola Tesla. They all had these experiences, visions or dreams or hallucinations in which knowledge was given to them or imparted to them in some way. But that's a trend that has continued from the first civilization. The ancient Babylonians and Sumerians, they believed that beer was a gift of the gods. With this idea of microbial intelligence and communication, we can revisit an ancient civilization like Babylon and take a look at their magical practices. Now, in the same capacity that we have trouble conceiving sensory experiences from different organisms as being intelligent, we apply our own subjective understanding of ancient mythologies, folklore, and magic practices. When we apply our own terms of shamanism, spirituality, demonology, incantations, witchcraft, magic, and so on, those are our own definitions and terms to describe what ancient people believed and practiced. We consider those practices to be ancient man's primitive attempts at understanding the world around them. What we haven't done is take a look at those practices as forms of microbial communication and interaction. Let's take a look at the idea of taboo, which was pervasive in all ancient cultures. A taboo was alluded to as a barrier that none can pass. To break a taboo would put you under a state of spiritual uncleanliness. This taboo was breached by something like touching a corpse or eating meat on a very hot day. To break a taboo, you would not be able to interact with other people, you couldn't prepare food. If you were a priest under a taboo, you couldn't commune or do rituals for the gods. So we see that to touch something unclean or unsanitary was to put a spiritual taboo on yourself. The reason those are spiritually unclean is because they're festering with harmful microorganisms. If you were to get sick or to break a taboo in ancient Babylon, you would need to see a physician, and these physicians also doubled as demonologists. This is because diseases and sickness or illness of any sort was caused by demons. The physician would diagnose the sort of demon that the person was possessed by. Incantations would be recited in order to invoke certain gods to expel those demons, as well as the plants and herbs and different resins to be administered to heal from those demons. And it's no coincidence that the medicines they use contain antimicrobial, antifungal, or antiparasitic compounds. Most ancient practices revolve around something we call sympathetic magic. It's this idea that you can affect things around you through intention, thoughts, and actions, which is to commune with the gods or the spirits, the microorganisms, through that communication network. Let's take a look at a specific example. This is an 18th century carving of toothworms. In a cuneiform Babylonian tablet, there is a legend where it is worms that cause gum and tooth decay. While it is not a physical earthworm that causes tooth decay, we can understand them to mean some sort of parasitic infection. Tooth decay and gum disease are caused by opportunistic parasites. It's a dysbiosis of the mouth. Babylon was the first culture to brush their teeth. They chewed on twigs. They also used a fermented drink and oil to treat toothaches. This is an effective remedy even today. Fermented foods and oil can help kill microorganisms and restore healthier microorganisms into the mouth. They also believed that bruxism was caused by demons. Bruxism is the unconscious grinding and clenching of teeth. Bruxism can be caused by parasites and even intestinal worms. And again, they tried to treat these with incantations, rituals, and plant medicine. We didn't discover microorganisms with the microscope. We simply saw it for the first time. Interacting and communing with the microbial world is the basis of all religion, spirituality, folk practices, and magic throughout the entire world. We are composed of these intelligent creatures, and they communicate with us, and they feed into our subconscious. It's as much a part of us and makes us as much of who we are as any of our other organs. It is our own Aristotelian, human-centric view of the world that has limited our understanding of the microbial as well as the ancient sciences. Thanks for watching.